worked in a food setting or a food industry, like at a cafe or at a restaurant, will tell you that there's a lot of time, especially at the end of the day, that seems to just kind of go out the window. What I'm referring to is when it slows down and when it kind of becomes the lull of customers not coming in. And today's story is kind of about that moment. A number of years ago, I used to work at a sandwich shop. And it was a sandwich shop at a pretty busy location, a pretty busy intersection. And throughout the day, throughout lunch, throughout the evening, we'd get hammered by customers. We just have so many customers. But as the day went on, and as the evening kind of, came upon us, it would get slower. And there would typically be an hour or two at the end of the night where there'd be no customers coming in. And that would just kind of leave the employees to their own devices and their own means. But what I want to talk about today is a woman who used to work there. Her name was Crystal, and she was a very interesting character. At the time, I was probably, 17, 16. I was the geeky white kid that had no friends and no cultural identity and no, maybe I still don't, but I was that quiet kid in the class that just kind of watched and I observed and I asked questions, but I was rather just, I could fade into the wallpaper. But Crystal was the opposite. She was a wild child. She was a party chick. She was outrageous and crazy and the exact opposite of what I was. But nonetheless, we both worked at the sandwich shop, and we both found ourselves one evening with kind of a couple hours to kill. Just kind of waiting for the time to fall off the clock. And I remember one night she told me, "Hey Whitney, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette. You want to come with me?" And I don't smoke, but I kind of fancy the idea of just being in her presence, I guess. So I excitedly, kind of agreed. I said, "Sure, let's go." She was sitting out back, on a porch, at a table at a wooden patio, and she was smoking a cigarette. And a thought occurred to me. A question kind of popped into my head, and I suddenly realized that I had this desire to ask her this question. If you could go back in time and you could relive the events of your life and you could change something, like maybe something you regret or something you did wrong, like would you go back and would you change something? And I'll never forget what she said to me. She looked at me and she said, "Whitney, no, I wouldn't." Very confidently, almost immediately, just instantly. And I said, "Why?" And she said to me, "Because in everything I've done in my life, I either thought it was the right thing to do, or I thought it was fun." And I was blown away. I mean, right? I was this 16-year-old kid, and I thought, man, that was the deepest thing I'd ever heard in my life. But I guess I envied her in the sense that someone could just live her life with, a person could just live their life with just that kind of carefree confidence. And I think, probably ironically, I don't think Crystal remembers me. I think I've probably, been lost to the pages of generic people in her life. But I'm never going to forget her, and I'm never going to forget that moment because it was just kind of an interesting look into a worldview that was just so different from my own.